Welcome back, my fellow gamers. We've explored a lot of spooky facts surrounding the main cast of antagonists and animatronics in the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. But not all antagonists in the game get to play as big of a role as Foxy, Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica. Some antagonists lurk alone in the shadows, only popping up every now and then. And one of those less talked about characters that we'd like to shine the spotlight on today is Plushtrap. Come on up to the stage, Plushtrap. It's your turn to shine. Plushtrap first appeared in FNAF 4, where he became known as a small but frightening plush foe. But just because he is small doesn't mean you should underestimate just how scary he can also be. Today we'll be focusing on getting to know Plushtrap and his role in FNAF a little better as we count down the top 10 scary Plushtrap facts. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10. Jointed fingers. Joints. Plushtrap is kind of odd when it comes to his fingers and toes, as animatronics in the game appear to have 5 fingers and 5 toes. Being a plush version though, he instead has 4 fingers and 3 toes. And in the FNAF VR game Help Wanted, this stayed the same, but his finger design did change slightly, as his fingers now had joints. Why is this scary? His finger joints should allow his hands to be more flexible and agile like a human's, increasing the possibility that he could use his now more adept fingers and hands to tear your flesh if he should catch you. Number 9. Friendly Jumpscare. Plushtrap can sometimes be seen in the FNAF VR Help Wanted game, giving you a jump scare kinda randomly. Though fortunately, at least this jump scare is not one that will result in the player's death. When you are rewarded with a gift box after successfully completing a mini-game in Help Wanted, there is a chance that instead of getting a reward, Plushtrap will be waiting inside that gift box to jump scare you. While this jump scare doesn't do any in-game harm to your character, it can still scare you, as you usually aren't really expecting it. After all, you just successfully beat a minigame and it's a gift, so you likely won't be expecting something bad to jump out of it at you, unless you suffer from dronophobia. Then this might be one unexpected scare that you actually expected. Number 8. Plushie. While most plushies that one sees seem to be adorable and cuddly, Plushtrap is definitely not that. He's a plushie that I'm sure more people would rather do anything than cuddle. He looks terrifying, and for a good reason. He's a murderous little plush. I personally have always found the idea of murderous plushies, dolls, figures more frightening than the idea of a large animatronic murdering me, because plushies are usually kept in bedrooms, and the idea that they could come to life at night and kill you in your sleep is terrifying. More terrifying, I'd argue, than the animatronics in the world of FNAF. At least in most cases with the large entertainment animatronics, you usually interact with them when it is part of your job to actually watch them. So it should be harder, in theory, for them to get at you, as at least you have your guard up. But with a plush antagonist, most stories or games involving them imply that the victim or player already kind of has their guard down, giving a plush foe more of an opportunity to strike. Number 7. Fun with Plushtrap. In FNAF 4, Plushtrap appears in his own minigame, Fun with Plushtrap. This minigame is based around sound cues. If you don't listen carefully, you will fail at the game and get jump scared by Plushtrap, which is pretty scary, let's be honest. The aim of the game is to catch Plushtrap while he's on the X when you turn on your flashlight. Flickering your flashlight on and off when this isn't going on will only slightly prolong you inevitably getting caught by Plushtrap and probably dying. So it is important in this minigame to use your ears as opposed to your eyes, which should be something players are used to at this point, as sound cues have already been established up until now as being mega important in the world of FNAF. And even if you succeed in this game, the pose Plushtrap makes when on the X when you catch him is still pretty frightening. Number 6. Dark Rooms. What's scarier than the minigame featuring Plushtrap from FNAF 4? The same minigame, but in VR. In Help Wanted, you get to revisit the Fun with Plushtrap minigame in the level Dark Rooms, except this time, you feel as though the darkness and the sounds of the minigame are all around you. And any jump scare you suffer, if you fail, will be right up in your face. Too close for comfort. Number 5. Mini Springtrap. Plushtrap might be small, but don't be fooled by his short stature. He is still terrifying. Plushtrap is basically a smaller plush version of one of the most terrifying animatronics in the game, Springtrap. The only thing that keeps him from being on the same level as Springtrap when it comes to instilling fear in the player is that he also appears to be less tattered and obviously does not have a rotting corpse inside him, but he is still pretty frightening given his appearance. He appears somewhat disheveled, has creepy eyes, and lots of small pointed teeth. Also, there is something unsettling about the idea of him being so small. It's easier for him to sneak up on you without you perhaps initially noticing. Unless, I guess, you're looking down all the time. Number 4, Nightmare. While Plushtrap may look similar to Springtrap, this is because both animatronics are based on the Spring Bonnie model. But while Springtrap is a more horrific version of Spring Bonnie, Plushtrap is therefore like a more frightening version of the Plush Spring Bonnie. Plush Bonnie is a fairly adorable little plush. So how did the idea of this plush become so twisted as to give us Plushtrap? Well, this is because in FNAF 4, Plushtrap is actually kind of like the unofficial Nightmare version of Plush Bonnie. He doesn't have Nightmare in his name, but his presence in the game has led many players to associate him with the Nightmare group of animatronics and plushies. Our dreams are weird, and when a dream becomes a nightmare, even the cutest plush can become something terrifying. Number 3, Plushtrap Chaser. In the Fazbear Frights Fetch novel, we are introduced to the idea of Plushtrap as a toy created by Fazbear Entertainment in the story Out of Stock. This story follows a boy named Oscar who desperately wants his own Plushtrap Chaser toy and manages to get his hands on a very special one despite them being sold out. More about why it's so special, or in other words, really creepy, later. The Plushtrap Chaser is imagined as a very bizarrely designed toy in the story. Plushtrap Chaser is an electronic stuffed bunny who is programmed to run around in the dark and freeze in the light. I'm not sure why it was designed this way, as it seems like an inherently terrifying idea for a toy, and also seems like it could potentially be really noisy at night when, you know, a family might be trying to sleep or something. Number 2, impersonation skills. Expanding on the idea of what makes the Plushtrap Chaser so terrifying as a toy, but especially the one that Oscar comes across in the story, is that this toy quickly becomes a menace once the power goes out. Plushtrap Chaser also apparently has the ability to use his voice box to alter his voice, allowing him to impersonate or mimic the voices of Oscar and his friends, allowing Plushtrap Chaser to trick the boys while he chases them around the house. Number 1, human features. Okay, so let's touch on what makes the particular Plushtrap Chaser from the story Out of Stock special. Creepily special. Oscar notices that this particular Plushtrap Chaser appears to be different. It has strange human-like features. Namely, its eyes and teeth do not appear to be plastic, but are more humanoid looking. We later find out in the story after the Plushtrap Chaser is defeated that not only did the Plushtrap Chaser's teeth and eyes appear to be human-like, but they were actually the teeth and eyes of a human being. So either someone was killed and their teeth and eyes were then implanted into the toy, or there's a human being somewhere alive who is missing their teeth and their eyes. Both options are pretty freaky. And this whole story is likely one of the scariest explorations involving a version of Plushtrap. Thank you so much for watching. What do you think are some of the scariest things about Plushtrap? Do you find larger animatronics or smaller plushies or animatronics more frightening? And which do you think is the scariest of all the plushies in FNAF? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 Scary Phobias Pokemon Will Trigger. ISAEI Torres wants to go to the UK comments, OMG, if Pokemon existed, I would die if my Pokemon fainted. I completely agree. I feel like I would never actually be able to fight with my Pokemon if they were real. In fact, I definitely would feel weird about keeping them in Pokeballs too. I would just want to take care of them and be friends with them and make sure they were happy. It would be really scary to see them faint because I always kind of feel like Pokemon are treated otherwise, other than the whole fighting thing, as though they were pets. So it's kind of like making your pets fight someone else's pets, which is weird. Creepy Waffle shares, I once got lost for an hour, maybe 30 minutes, I don't know, it felt like a long time, in those caves, and I spent an hour trying to get out. Then I got out and was at the entrance. I was so mad, and then I went back through and finally got out, and I needed to heal my Pokemon, so I went into my bag, and boom! There's about 6 escape ropes. I was so mad, and I thought it was hilarious at the same time. I feel that. I have spent so much time in Pokemon just trying to navigate through caves. That does sound like a pretty hilarious and, at the same time, frustrating story. I feel for you. Also, great username, by the way. And that's all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and your experiences shared in a future video. This has been Top 10 Gaming, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to keep on gaming on. Pew pew!